Good morning, everyone. Again, we apologize for the late start, but as we begin, let's all stand for a word of prayer.
Good morning, everyone. When we close our eyes, bow our head, clasp our hands, that's how we were taught in preschool. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for today. We want to thank you for the gift of life, for health, for strength, also for jobs, for the intellect, the wisdom, the knowledge that you've blessed us with, Father God. Even as we convene here today, Father God, we thank you for our country, for the nature that you've blessed us with, for the good and the bad times that we've had, encountering different climate issues, God. We thank you for our rivers, we thank you for our mountains, we thank you for our springs, our valleys. We thank you for those landslides that help us to build back better. We thank you for the floods that help us to build back better. Father God, as we listen to our presenters today, we just thank you, Father, for giving them the wisdom, the knowledge, the insight, the foresight that they need to deliberate, for us to discuss and to plan well for our country. We ask all of these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Drago. Permit me this morning to recognize the Honorable Kozia Frederick, who is the Minister of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment, and Constituency Empowerment. Ms. Joanne Commodore, who is the Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs. Let me welcome any of the staff of that ministry as well present. Also this morning, I welcome staff of the Ministry of Health, Wellness, and Social Services, particularly the Environmental Health Department, with specific responsibility for the Climate Forum. We welcome staff of the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy. We welcome staff of the Ministry of Tourism, including I see Mrs. Rudette Baptiste and her other staff members. Welcome this morning. We welcome Mr. Marshall Alexander, Director Acting of the Dominica Meteorological Service, including the other staff of Rudette Baptiste and other staff members. Welcome also Dr. Scott. We welcome Mr. Marshall Alexander, Director Acting of the Dominica Meteorological Service, including the other staff of Rudette Baptiste, representatives from WASCO. Also Dr. Scott. Welcome Mr. Marshall Alexander, Director Acting of the Dominica Meteorological Service, including the other staff of representatives from WASCO. Also Dr. Strong, welcome Mr. Marshall Alexander, Director Acting of the Thank you so much for taking the other staff of representatives from WASCO. Also Dr. Strong, welcome Mr. Marshall Alexander, Director Acting National Climate Forum, taking the other staff. I'm sure by now all representatives of Dr. Strong, not just the National Climate Forum, I'm sure by now all representatives of Dr. Strong, not just because it's National Climate Forum, I'm sure by now all representatives of Dr. Strong, not just because it's National Climate Forum, I'm sure by now all representatives of Dr. Strong, not just because it's National
infrastructure, transportation, and ultimately the safety and well-being of our people in a country such as Dominica, where our natural beauty is matched by our vulnerability to extreme infrastructure, transportation, timely and reliable climate information, the safety and well-being of our people in a country such as Dominica, where our natural beauty is matched we do so by our vulnerability just days after the official start of transportation, timely and reliable climate information, the safety and well-being of our suggest it in a country such as Dominica season, where our natural beauty is matched we do so by our vulnerability just days after the official start of transportation, timely and reliable never be the safety and well-being of our share experiences, and make the most of the valuable information and discussions that will take place throughout the day. Together, through knowledge preparedness and partnership, share experiences, we can continue to strengthen and make the most of the valuable information, climate variability, and discussion and extreme weather that will take place throughout the day as we wish together, productive, through knowledge preparedness and partnership, share experience and continue to strengthen and make the most of the valuable information, climate variability, and discussion and extreme weather that will take place.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander.
Together,
Productive, on behalf of everyone here,
and
to extend
partnership,
thanks
share
to you and
experience
your
and
staff
continue to strengthen and make
for
the
those
most
who
of
depend
the
so greatly
valuable
on
information, climate
you,
variability, and
especially
discussion and
during
extreme weather that will
season.
take place.
So we
Thank
are
you
so
all
much,
thanks
Mr. Alexander, and
together,
productive, on behalf of everyone here, to extend thanks
share
to you and
experience
your
and
staff.
continue to strengthen
And
and make the most of the
we welcome you
valuable
this
information,
morning,
climate variability, and
especially
discussion and
during
extreme
climate tools and increase engagement with national stakeholders, which is what we're doing today, which is what we do every year. So I hope that you've come with your questions, that you've come with your concern, that you've come with your recommendations. Climate tools and increase engagement with national. These efforts support pioneer, which is what we're doing. I sometimes think that we are doomed if we do and doomed if we don't. Heat, excessive heat affects us, excessive water affects us. So we have to be prepared for every eventuality. So I sometimes think that we are water availability, heat, excessive heat affects us, excessive water affects us. So we have to be prepared for every eventuality. So and I hope that you understand that water availability, heat, excessive heat affects us, excessive water affects us. So we have to be prepared for every eventuality. So and I hope that you understand that water availability,
These efforts enhance the accessibility and use of climate information for decision-making across the 6 OACPS regions, supported by 8 regional. These efforts enhance accessibility and use of climate information for the Caribbean decision-making across coordinated 6 OACPS regions at the Caribbean, supported by 8 regional. These efforts enhance accessibility all of the local and use of climate information for the Caribbean decision-making across coordinated 6 Caribbean regional. So the Clinton project, which was originally scheduled to end in 2026, has been extended until September 20. And climate information. So this extension will allow the Dominica Met Service and its national partners to continue strengthening climate services, developing sector-specific products, and enhancing early warning systems that support climate resilience and sustainable national development. So today, this is our 6th year of collaborating, of sitting together, talking, coming up with our standard operating procedures, and probably indicating to one another where we would need them to assist. So I urge you to share openly, to speak to one another, to ask questions, to brainstorm, and to participate fully in the forum. I wish you a very fruitful meeting and a wonderful day.
Our thanks to PS Commodore for those remarks, and of course, because we're trying to move things right along, I invite right away the Honorable Minister for the Environment, Honorable Kosia Frederick.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. Good morning, folks. Morning. So I came from the East Coast this morning, the Carnival space, the last frontier, in my view, and a space that has been guarded by nature for many months. But what was very interesting, going through the Carnival space, coming through the forest of Dominica, through the Bells area, and seeing this wonderful space that in a few hours can be totally destroyed. And we saw that in a very vivid way after Hurricane Maria. And sometimes we forget what happened when those major events happened to us. And so I'm happy to be here this morning and to be part of this forum. And I really want to salute all of you in the room. We need this to be more than just a technical meeting. Because when I scan the room this morning, I see serious people here. People I think who are here not by chance, but people who are here because they understand the important work. And I want to say that throughout my conversation with you that we have to look toward the science to make informed decisions. Sometimes we move through the rigors of our day on gut feelings and emotions. But when the impacts of climate change hit us, it has to be the science that informs our movement. So I think it's an opportunity for us today, even if we are on the 6th version of this forum, and to help us to prepare for the challenges, but also to help us to look at the various opportunities that are available to us as citizens of our country. Because I suspect most of us are here, if not all of us are here, because we choose to be in that space and choose to contribute to its development. And one of the major impediments to our development is the climate events that happens around us. I come from the Saturday constituency on the April 26th. I happened to be out of state at that time, coming on that very same day. And hearing on the news and social media of some rain just falling. It's raining. So people indoors and they're chilling. But then when the rain subsided, I mean, you should have seen the entire space. Coming on a flight to Dominica, the entire school was scared. And so this is the realities that we have to face. And that is why your work is so important. Because right on the ground in real time, we see all of you as serious actors coming in to help to secure that space. And so the theme here is very relevant. We have to move from forecast to action. And that's important. Because sometimes I listen to the forecast in the morning and I see people respond to the forecast and it's as if we're not taking nothing seriously. And it's only when the major events hit us And we like to say this thing, oh, what happened? And so we have to take this seriously. Science is so important. So, because not only is it going to affect our country on a whole, including infrastructure, destroy nature, but really and truly we are affected, the livelihoods are affected. When a small farmer in the Carlisle territory or Atkinson or in Good Hope or somewhere loses a portion of land because it goes away after a landslide, he has to survive. What is he going to do? And so it is important to look at the livelihoods of people who are affected in many ways than one. So it is very clear to me that the effects of climate change is something that is our lived reality, something we see every day. We live that experience. There should be no one else anyway who can tell us more about the effects of climate change on ourselves. And just in our recent history, in the lifespan of our republic, 1978, Hurricane David. And subsequently, every couple of years, we have hurricanes. And a major one again in 2017, Hurricane Maria. And after Hurricane Maria, we have had trough systems, and all of this happening over a period of time. So it is something that we experience every day. The farmers feel the effects of the different rainfall patterns. The fishers witness it along the coast. There's some areas we can't access anymore to do our line fishing. Some areas we can't use it to send our boats off to sea. The communities where we live, and if you realize that our island is gifted with spaces along the coast. Not no one village, except for Bells and Sylvina and maybe Campbell, we don't live more than 1 mile from the coast. So really and truly, our island is a coastal island, a coastal space. And the beauty of our coastal space is what is also important and what can be affected easily through the effects of climate change. And so if we move further inwards, our ecosystems, our rivers, our waterfalls, our mangroves, our lakes, all of these are important, but they are being affected. And so in all that beauty, all that nature that we have, nature of the Caribbean, we stand out as one of the most vulnerable countries, the most vulnerable species. The very thing that makes us unique is the very thing that impedes our development and makes us vulnerable. So, but in this entire narrative, I realized that we have done a number of very good things in Dominica. We have bounced back, if you want to say that. And we have a lot of things we do. And I get the sense that it's in our DNA to do those things, to survive. Because you have to understand the history of our space. It is not just a recent republic of 1978. It moves beyond that. It was a thriving sort of colonial experiment. And before that, it was a massive, wonderful Carnival civilization. And so that is in our DNA to survive. And so sometimes when I, as a Minister of Environment, go to conferences and then people speak about resiliency and how we should check our carbon footprint, I get upset. It vexes me. Because there's a condescending way that people speak to us. And if we shave a little piece of land to the road, oh, you have to be careful about the ecosystem. But you're belching tons of stuff into the atmosphere, causing greenhouse gases. And it's okay. And we're happy. We go to those places and we enjoy that. Being over there. It's so beautiful. And so we have to take some time to think about our space, our small island, our contribution to what's been happening. So we've been moving along since Hurricane Maria. And sometimes I think it's not taken seriously at all. The idea of trying to make Dominica the first climate resilient country. And sometimes it becomes cliche. You write it down and every power rep and every minister and every PS come and say it. What does it really mean? Because in my understanding of the history of Dominica, being a Carnaval boy from Serbia, I realized that the resiliency really surviving the people. That even if we build these wonderful highways and we build stronger homes and we build better bridges, but if people themselves are not resilient, that could be a major impediment. So we have to make sure that we can honor the ancestors who came before us, who fought a lot for this country. And that we have inherited something that we need to keep in check and in good health for our children. And so the health of the environment itself has to have vision, and that's important. We have to have vision. Being the minister responsible for forestry, etc., I have seen in real time the hard work that happens to mitigate against certain things. And sometimes it's not because the impact or the effects is not happening in our lifetime or tomorrow. We discount it as being part of that bigger process. So it's easy to see a bridge and a road and a school, but it's difficult to see a mahogany tree you have to spend 15 years to grow. And sometimes we have to look at these things and come back and understand that the hard work that we do, I suspect, is not just for us in our own time, but it's for a generation that comes after us. And so our forests are protected, and if we do so, that means our watershed will be protected. When the watersheds are strengthened, that means the rivers themselves will be better. If the rivers stay healthy, then we have better communities, and all of those things happen. So everything is linked. And this is an indigenous concept I have learned over time, that everything in nature is linked. So you may think that you're driving through the forest and you toss something out of the window, but it gets into a stream, it gets in the river, it gets to the sea, and it chokes out a turtle. So everything is connected. And so I think this is why the concept of environmental stewardship is so important. Because we're talking about weather, we're talking about climate, but all of this is, the bedrock of it is how we treat the environment. And so, in our lifetime, we are seeing the biggest impact of climate change. And I've argued many times that climate change really began when the first tree was cut by the invaders who came. And when they cut the first tree, they realized they could cut a second tree and a third tree. And because there was no resistance, or they got rid of the resistance, they kept on cutting the trees. And when they took out the entire tree and they put a crop like sugarcane or cotton, that's why it started. And that's what I want you to understand, because you are part of a legacy that you have to keep in check for your children to come. I have a grandson, he's 3 years old. And I need to leave that Dominica space in a good position for him to explore and to enjoy. And so we are also in a very peculiar position. How do we balance development and nature? And that's a big thing for us. Because do we take it all down and become a metropolis, or do we keep nature and seemingly stay backwards? So this is something we have to figure out for ourselves. And that's why I'm happy to be here, Marshall. As a matter of fact, Marshall had me on the duress to be here. Yeah, I think I owe him a few things, so I had to be here because I think it's so much important work that we do, and it goes unnoticed. I mean, we see the rising temperatures, and how do we calculate that? How do we kind of figure it out? Because the biodiversity is being messed up. Just on the West Coast just 2 days ago, a fire. Taro last night, a fire. It doesn't happen that way. So one day you could have rain, and there could be flooding and a landslide, and 3 hours of sun. Intense heat. You have bushfires. So the reality is, I want to say, demands some real action. Marshall, it requires better planning. It also requires stronger partnerships, and that's why we have all of the partners here who part of this project. And also, it has to be timely, and it also has to be very reliable. And and this is where the Met Service, I think, continue to play a major role in all this. I don't know if most of you know, when I came in as a minister in 2019, the Met Office was with me, and ODM for some time, and I had this. That's why me and this guy, we cool, we tight, and it's at that time I got to understand the importance of what the work that we do, to forecast and to use the science. But I must also say that there's a little piece that we're missing in this big movement as well. There's traditional knowledge. Because when I grew up as a little boy, my grandfather would look at the horizon and say, rain coming. You would see the bird movement, you would see the type of clouds, and you may not see that science, but in his way, this is his understanding of the real world that he was living in. And so if you fast forward to now, we have the tools, and we have to use those tools. I find it strange that someone is can easily access some rumor or gossip on a smartphone. It blows my mind. And yet they cannot get the real information to save a life and to be informed and to take action. I find it strange. And so, because my grandfather and his friends around him were able to do this. When they saw 2 leaves coming down Mr. Granville, down the Concord River, they say, God, the river going to overflow because leaves are coming down. Let's make tracks, let's get out of there. So we have this, and even now we are more advanced. We have early warning systems, we have stuff on the river by the bridge and thing, we're checking everything, we can get an alert and say that's happening. So we cannot discount the importance of the traditional knowledge. But if we tie it in with the science, I think we will be better able to serve Dominica and to serve the needs of the people. So that is critical from where I sit. I mean, when we're able to predict a drought and to get a farmer to store some water and to harvest some water and to create shade for his crops, I think that for me is groundbreaking. It may seem simple, but when a farmer depends on a cucumber and a sweet pepper to survive, I mean, that is a big thing for him. And the ability to monitor the rainfall in the rivers and people enjoying the rafting and the tourism product, and we can predict that's going to happen, will save lives. So for me, it is a big thing. And when we track the weather systems, there's apps on your phone you can track weather systems. They may not be totally accurate, but it gives you a sense. It gives you an alert, a sense. And I think this is where we are. This is where the Met Office is so important in all of this, and the hard work. And I realize that you refer to as acting. I know what that means, and it's not really doing the job. It's a movie or show. No, I think you're doing the job. So I'm not sure what you're acting. So sometimes we have to figure out the narrative. Is Marshall Alexander senior Met Office? Because the man in the room. And the director, the man in the room. I think that thing will free on this side, I think acting there. I don't like that. I'll take my blows for that, but I don't like it. And the strange thing here is just that, you know, and people getting mixed up. And I don't want to offend anybody in this forum, but people getting mixed up. But when people go for a process to elect a person to represent them, I think you may have to run the risk of saying something that God does not want to hear, because you're representing people. And I think it's so important that when we do the work as serious, scientifically driven people, technical people, and I see young men here with PhDs and with master's degrees in various fields, and it's exciting me because I want to hang out with you guys today, but I have to go because I have to go backside in the constituency and meet some other people as well. But just to say that the work that we do is so important, and we have to magnify it. Earlier on, Pierre spoke about the achievement of having the climate health, the health climate bulletin, and talking about its pioneering work, the first thing. And now, I haven't heard that anywhere else, Marshall. and that is important. So the PR on what we do is important, and we need, I think, ambassadors. I see now we're covered by Emo News. That's cool. That's great. But sometimes I worry Emo News when you think about breaking news or what the authorities doing at 3-4 across the road. You have no fun. If I cut the city, just cut the trailer and put it out on the road. What authorities have to do with that? And sometimes we have the media and social media and influencers having that as something big and they're going around what's happening. That vexes me, and in one sense that makes me very sad, because we are part of a country that we have to build and we have to play our part. We are all connected in this thing, and so I think the achievement of this is so important for us. And what I also realize that we do have people who are not connected in any big way to the government service, people in private sector. And it's so important to have that as part of the resiliency effort. And again, friends, comrades, government agencies have to learn to collaborate. I have been in the service there for a few years, starting from 1993, and going across the public service. There's always my thing, silos. I have information, I have data, but who is Mr.? I hold in that, I hold in information. But when, like the old song says, when the rain falls, it doesn't follow one person out stuff. And so we have to find ways, like we're doing today, to have collaboration to ensure that we do this serious work. So government agencies must collaborate. Also, there have to be a positive discussion between the scientists like you guys and policymakers. They have to have a serious work. And policymakers like myself have to understand we have to sometimes relax and take advice. I mean, because you know the thing. In most instances, you know better. So that's why I'm here, because I really want to celebrate that. And I think communities themselves and technical people like us have to share information. It cannot be outdated, it can be ancient, it can be traditional. You have to find ways to create that synergies because you know better. And the public and private sector must also have partnerships. Because at the end, it appears to me that the resiliency and adaptation to climate change has to be a collective effort. We can't do it ourselves. So I encourage the Met Office and key stakeholders. I see we have health, we have disaster management, tourism, we have forestry, we have the police, agriculture, all those agencies. I think we have to pull our resources together and share the information that really captures what happened in real time in the climate conditions on the ground. And I think this will more than ever benefit people because we are there to serve people. Those of us in the private sector, we're there to make money. Those of us in the public sector have to keep on remembering we have to serve people. That's why I am canceling out the word public officer and I consciously reinserting the word that is by the Constitution, public servant. And what a servant is? We know what a servant is. And sometimes we're mixing it up. Because we travel, we go to a conference, we get a first degree, a second degree, a third degree, all of a sudden we are public servants, that's for the Constitution. And so we have to use that to empower people and to ensure that the people that we serve benefit from our actions. So as we enter this new hurricane season, I think our focus has to be clear. And again, I'm not even sure if we enter a hurricane season. It appears to me that the hurricane season is the entire year. So it started in Kalinago, on April 26th. And so it appears to me that we cannot just prepare for a June to October, June to November. We are just prepare for the entire year. That's why I'm happy when Pierre said that we have to meet more and have this discussion for the year. So I don't want to be too long. I need to give a politician a mic and an audience. And an audience as smart as all you. He'll talk plenty. But I just want to say that we the government, as we've been doing, Marshall, we continue to invest in the science, and we also continue to strengthen the services that we have. We also have to continue to empower the local communities, and because more and more than ever we see them, people becoming more vulnerable, and we have to, for want of a better term, build that resiliency from the ground up. That's be a ground up approach. And so the forecast that we should share and the things that we have in this forum have to really guide that. That's why it has to be more than just a technical meeting and be more of a meeting of the minds to share information. And so at the end, I think that the preparedness that we all seek to have would first begin with knowledge. and then it translates into some actions. And I think that Dominica will have a safer future knowing that we have serious people doing this serious work. So I just want to close by saying, I wrote that one down. His note. I say, may the wisdom of our ancestors guide our stewardship of this land, and may future generations look back on this moment as one in which we chose preparation over complacency, resilience over vulnerability, and action over uncertainty. Marshall, thank you for having me here, and thank you for being a good audience. And remember, we're serving people, and I think they'll honor us in many ways than one when we really do produce those action items out of this wonderful forum. So once again, Maureen, thank you.
Thank you so much to the Honorable Minister. And in fairness to him, he didn't want me this morning. He said, give him a mic at our own risk. I tried to signal to him. He said, don't be too long. He said, you gave at your own risk. So thank you so much for your insight, the history lesson, and so much more. I'm sure that we can all take something away from what you said this morning. So that takes us to the end of the official opening ceremony for today's activity. On your agenda, you will notice if you have a copy that we're supposed to take a group picture right now. So on behalf, I know some people have to leave. So Minister, thank you so much for your presence. Yes, Commodore, we thank you as well for taking the time to join us this morning. So our media partners, if you need to leave, I hope you can stay a bit longer. But if you do need to leave, we thank you as well for joining us. So now group photo, I know there are many of us, but we're going to move the head table a bit forward and we're going to come forward and take a group photo. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone.
And this was the official opening ceremony of the 6th Annual Dominica Climate Forum. We will be right back for what we call the meat of the matter, which is the actual climate forums. Stay connected.
The blue pot. Be careful. Taking a picture.
into our more business session. We have two in one. We have the 2025 dry season review by Vernie Master Honorary from the Dominica Med Services, and that will be followed by the 2026 wet hurricane season outlook by Dr. Wazita Scott and Annie Carrot Joseph. So, ready? Yes. Thank you very much. Make us feel welcome.
Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning. So we're starting off our presentations for today. And like everything else, we really came prepared to listen to the outlook, but we need to set the stage. Where are we starting from? So we're going to be starting off with the dry season. We need to understand where we're at to figure out, okay, where are we possibly going to when the outlook is presented. So we're going to look at some data. I have a lot of familiar faces, but for the new ones, when we speak of the dry season, we're looking at the period from December 2025 to May 2026. December and May are considered transition months. Those 2 months can be either very wet or very dry. So, for example, coming out from the wet season in November, as we transition in December, December could likely be an extension of that wet season, and then the dry season begins in January. During the start of the wet season, the transitional month of May could be an extension of the dry season, so it could go either way, okay? When we're looking at our seasonal outlooks, which we are going to present today, we are speaking of timescales varying from sub-seasonal timescales, which could be about 2 to 3 weeks, and generally our seasonal timescales extend between 3 to 6 months. Compare that to our weather forecast, which are done daily on a period of either 3 to 7 days. So on the island, we have what we call 2 climatological stations. In order for us to do any sort of climatological analysis or seasonal analysis, we need a certain length of data. At the Kingsfield and Douglas Shores airports, which are 2 airports, or 2 CIMO stations for short, I may say CIMO, it will come naturally, we have at least 30 years of data. In order to prepare seasonal forecasts, we need at least 15 years of data. So you may hear that we have stations all around the island, but those stations are really recent, just about 4 years. So therefore, we cannot use them for seasonal analysis. So we're going to start by looking at rainfall and temperature, which are our 2 parameters, our met parameters. We're looking at our seasonal forecast, and we'll look at the Kingsfield and the Douglas Shores airports. So you will hear me refer to the western coast or the eastern coast, and basically just assigning data from the Kingsfield airport to sort of our western areas, and the Douglas Shores airport for our eastern coastal areas, okay? So for rainfall, what was our rainfall like in Dominica during the wet season? Was it dry? That's a question. Did we have like a Goro Kawem? Did we experience any of these? No, not really. Not really, right? A lot of rain. And this is reflected in our data. So here we have the rainfall chart for Kingsfield from December to May. We have a black line, which represents the rainfall during the dry season from 2025 to 2026. We have a sort of greenish, light brownish line. This represents a lower normal threshold. So when we're looking at the data, we are comparing what we have received during this dry season to what we call a normal rainfall values. When we speak about normal rainfall value, we're not talking about just one single value, which is like an average, which is what you might be used to. We're looking at a range. So anytime a rainfall falls within what we call a lower normal threshold and a higher normal threshold, we consider this normal rainfall. So we are comparing our dry season rainfall to this normal range, okay? So anytime our rainfall falls between the lower normal threshold, which is our brown line, and the upper normal threshold, which is our blue line, then our rainfall is normal. So from December at Kingsfield, we had normal rainfall. This increased drastically during January. Remember, January was very wet. During February, it fell back to below normal, so we would have had a dry February. And then from March, it started to increase again and kept going up in April. And towards the end of the dry season, the rainfall went back down to normal. Okay? So basically, we had above normal rainfall in January, March, and April, normal rainfall in December and May, and below normal in February. Just 1 month of dry weather. Our wettest day during that period was during the trough, which affected us on April 26th, and where we received 51.7 millimeters. Now, during the dry season, we speak of dry spells because we're expecting it to be dry, and we're expecting impactful dryness. This year, we had a dry spell, a significant dry spell. Generally, we're speaking of when we experienced 7 days of rainfall, record rainfall of less than 1 millimeter. This is considered a dry day. So we had 18 consecutive dry days during the period December to January, 18 consecutive dry days. By the middle of January, the rainfall went all the way back up. During February, we had 9 of those dry spells, and during March, we had 8 dry spells. There were no dry spells in April and May. What we don't really speak about all the time is wet spells during the dry season, but it was significant this time around. So we know that we had 11 days of a wet spell in January, 12 days from February to March, and 8 days during March. So when we look at the entire period now, we're looking at, okay, what was that accumulation of rainfall? Yes, we've said that we had above normal in January, below normal in February. What does that mean? By the end of May, Kenfield would have accumulated 647.3 millimeters of rainfall, which is above the normal range of 307 to 592. So if we look at the graph, here we have a gray, this is supposed to be a gray line running up here. This is our climatological year average. Then we have a green line. This would represent the rainfall during the dry season of 2025. And then the blue, which is this year. So we can see that from December, we had below normal in terms of accumulation by the end of December, below normal rainfall. But as we went into January, our accumulation started to go up. Our rainfall accumulation, the additional rainfall, is starting to increase. And towards February, although February is dry, January was so wet, it still kept our rainfall amounts pretty high. And this kept on increasing until the end of May. So by the end of the dry season, we had above normal rainfall experience across Kenfield, observed at Kenfield Airport, which can get extended to the western communities. So now we're shifting across the other side of the island to the northeast at Obeservations Airport. And what do we observe? From December, our rainfall was above normal. And this kept on until March, peaking or spiking in April as a result of the extreme weather that we experienced, and it dropped right back down to just a little bit under the threshold, slightly below the threshold. So above normal rainfall was observed from December to April, slightly below normal by May. Again, the wettest day was observed on April 26th, observing 295.5 millimeters. Actually, significant dry spells. There was an 8-day dry spell from December to January, a 6-day dry spell in March, but the wet spells, 10 days in December, 11 days in January, 15 days in March. What does that tell us? Marigot always has rain. Here you go. So when we look at the accumulation for the entire period, we can see from December, our rainfall was slightly just about average, and it just continued to increase. It was on par with last year's dry season rainfall, because last year was wet as well during the dry season. So it was on par, but by the time we got to April, with that extreme event, it started to spike by the end of the season. we had accumulated above normal rainfall, a total of 1,322.5 millimeters. This is also the above normal here. Okay? So the upper part of the range is 1010 and we accumulated 1322. Yes, because the two airports have their own data sets, right? So they have their own normal ranges, their own averages, correct? So these are rainfall maps. So using the same stations that we have, why we cannot perform seasonal analysis, seasonal forecast with those stations, we are able to perform rainfall maps, just looking at the data that would have been collected at those stations throughout the month and create a map. So during the period December to February, that's a map on the left, rainfall across the island would have averaged 660 millimeters. The highest would have been recorded at Freshwater Lake, 1,677. The lowest along the west coast, Salisbury is one of the driest areas on the island, 194.7 millimeters. So you would observe we have a lot more browns, and as we move into the period March, April, May, our rainfall would have increased significantly. You see a lot more greens, and which would represent an accumulation of about 1,000 to 1,500 millimeters, and this concentrated in the south, central, and eastern parts of the island, where we would have received most of that rainfall during that April 26th trough event, rainfall event. During the period March, April, May, our rainfall would have averaged 794 millimeters, so a slight increase in the rainfall during the second part of the dry season. Maximum accumulations occurred at Pokase, 1,955 millimeters, and the minimum at Salisbury, 1,147 millimeters. So when we look at the entire period, we are combining all the stations over the 6-month period, December to May, we see that our highest rainfall would have occurred in the wettest parts of the island, Brewery Lake, Freshwater Lake, in the Valley area. Average rainfall, 1,360 millimeters. Maximum would have been observed at our Loda station, in excess of 3,000 millimeters, and our lowest at Salisbury, about 290 millimeters. Is that something that you expect? Does it look foreign to you? Is the data presented on this? Those of you who live in those areas, the farmers who operate in those areas, it's representative. Yes, no, I know this is for feedback. Yes, you can ask a question after, but this is just for feedback to get if this is representative of wherever that you're located. So the question is, was this dry season the wettest? What do you think? I see yes, I see nods. In our entire data set, do you think it was the wettest? Yes, indeed. Yes. In our historical data set, you think so? What does our data tell us? So on the left, we have our ranked rainfall during the dry season for Kenfield. And at Kenfield, this dry season was our 8th wettest dry season. Oh yes, our 8th wettest dry season. So it wasn't the driest, and that's a record from 1983. Let's save your question for after, because I know this can go on for long.
Originally, what was the similar dry wet season?
Was there a dry season? I know before Erica, but before Maria, I don't remember if the dry season was exceptionally dry. I know for Erica, yes, but I can't remember for Maria.
Alright, but based on what I read, that 4 to 5 days now, you have better updated recording system.
Not better updated, we have increased the network, so we have more stations observing rainfall. Yes. So, but for this slide, it's just letting you know this was not the wettest dry season period. So this is from 1983. This is 2026 right here. So the followed by is 2018, and then followed by 2017. Excuse me? Because it is round from wettest to dry season period. Yes, it's a round graph. From 1983. It's here. Yeah, 2017 is the second highest. So when we look at the data set for the past 10 years, the 2020s have at least 5 years in there of being the wettest dry season. Okay? Yeah. So the graph on the right represents Douglas Charles's data from 1980 at Douglas Charles. So it's not the wettest. The wettest was 1981, followed by 2002. And what is interesting in that particular graph is that even in the 10 wettest year, only about 2 are from the 2000s. You have about 2 or 3 from 1980 something and from 1990 something as well. So just even looking at it, it actually caught my attention because it means that people who live on the eastern coast, their lived experience with extreme rainfall is much different from those who live on the west coast. They would have experienced more extreme rainfall on the west coast than the east coast. Yes. So it's something somebody can research on if they wish. So this was rainfall, so now we're going to look at our temperatures. The period December to May is considered, probably say up to March, our cool season. Our temperatures are decreasing from the time we get to December, lowering into January. By the time we get to April, we start to warm up again and we begin the Caribbean heat season. But generally, this is the cooler period across the island. So when we look at the data, we're starting off with April again. In terms of our maximum temperatures, this represents the average maximum temperature per month. So likewise, our lower threshold normal is blue, upper threshold is red, and whenever the black line falls between the two, we are experiencing normal temperature for that particular month. So when we look at December was normal, January was normal, February was slightly warmer than normal or warmer than usual. By the time we got back to March, we went back down to normal and fell to slightly below normal as we got out of May. So in terms of the data, the average maximum temperature for the period was 30.7 degrees Celsius, which falls between the lower threshold of 30.5 and an upper threshold of 31.0. So therefore, our maximum temperatures during that period was normal. When we look at our lowest nighttime temperatures or minimum temperatures, December was cooler than usual. January, February, March was the usual. And when we went into April and May, our temperatures were below normal. So when we look at the data, it felt cool. It wasn't a very warm, dry season. So our average temperature for the period was 22.2 degrees Celsius, which falls between the range of 22.3 and 22.6 degrees Celsius, normal nighttime temperatures. What does it say at our sister station? Daytime highs, December, below normal. January slightly went up to warmer than normal during the daytime hours. February went back to normal. And as we went into April and May, our daytime temperatures were cooler than usual. So very comfortable temperatures, nothing extreme. In terms of the average, 29.0 was observed during the period, and this was basically between 29.0 or lower threshold and 29.3 or upper threshold. What about the nighttime temperatures? December, normal, into January, February, cooler than normal. When we got into March, we went back up to normal, and it stayed pretty normal, probably slightly below into April and May, but nothing extreme. Very cool temperatures. Our average was 22.3, and then falls between the range of 22.2 and 22.7. Anybody was uncomfortable during the dry season? Had to use your ACs, fans a lot? You were still hot. You have fun. There you go. Okay, hot people. So we're going to look at the hot spells. When we speak of hot spells, we're looking at impactful heat. That's when you're going to start feeling uncomfortable. So we have various ranges in terms of our data that we use to define how hot or comfortable you may feel. At Kenfield, we have a hot spell day, defined of a day where our maximum temperature is more than or equal to 32.9 degrees Celsius. For the statisticians in there, this is our 90th percentile. And out of 182 days, which is the span of the dry season, we only had 3 days observing such temperatures. We only had one hot spell, which is when we would have observed such a temperature on 2 or more consecutive days. There was only one spell, and at the bottom we have extreme heat. This is what will give you heat stress, possibility to heat stroke. And at that for defining extreme heat, we look at the 95th percentile value, which is 33.7 degrees Celsius. And during the period, we had only one such day in early May. So, like, time we get into April, our temperature is starting to increase. Getting into May, it starts to increase as well, it continues to increase. And we have already begun to see our warmer temperatures or hot temperature values popping in. But no spells recorded during the period. At Douglas Charles on the East Coast, windier, slightly cooler. The 90th percentile value or hot spell day, the temperature value is more than or equal to 31.5. We had no such days where the maximum temperature reached those values. Very comfortable temperatures, no hot spells, no extreme heat being experienced. What about hot nights? Hot days you can probably deal with. Hot nights, something else. You get really uncomfortable when the nights are very warm. During the dry season, our value, we are looking at our 90th percentile. Our hot spell day value is more than or equal to 25 degrees Celsius. Only one such day was observed during the dry season. Comfortable temperatures. Douglas Charts as well, no days were observed, no hot spell days were observed on nights, hot spell nights. Temperatures dropping to or keeping around 25.7 degrees Celsius. That's very warm temperatures for the night. Four slides. Save your question for the question round, please. Make a note. Make a note. So we're going to look at recent weather and climate impacts. So that's the impact of those conditions during the dry season. So we're starting off with December. We had a trough system in December. So this is just going to be a gallery of pictures that we have accumulated from various social media platforms. We had a trough system affected December 3rd, which resulted in landslides and flooding. So this is pre-river in Lapland. There was flooding in Londonderry and at Douglas Charles Airport as well. January 3rd, we had some wet period as well. So when you have a lot of moisture, your ground is unstable. If you have unstable cliffs, then stuff is likely to fall. So we had rock falls being observed in Kulibishri, January 3rd, rock falls in Dubik, January 9th, rock falls in Mont Espanol, January 23rd. Well, when we came to March, so in January 25th, we also had a rainfall event which resulted in this movement of material in Pishle, which dammed the Pishle River for a couple of weeks, and that would have posed some health impact into those mental health and wellness for the residents in that community. February, there's also a drought system which resulted in flooding at the bypass in Hampstead. This is nothing unusual, I think, for this particular area. Landslides in Lap Lane in April, and unstable conditions resulting. Well, this was as a result, this one here. But the weather was unstable. There was also bad seas, which resulted in debris being deposited in Scorsese. So we had a lot of beach erosion happening around that time. So let me go back to this one for March. By the time we got to March, we started to see sargassum inclusions in our marine environment. So this is Fopole area. Fopole had a wide expanse of sargassum in March. By the end of May, based on our reports, there weren't much sargassum in the waters at Douglas Charles, but there were still deposits from very old incursions along the coastal area, across the beach, across the they call it the fishing, the fisheries complex in Marigot. Correct. Yes. So while there are no fresh incursions, you still have sargassum that's deposited there, which is influencing or affecting the environment. So most recent on people's minds, they watch probably on this slide. So the most recent event on people's mind most likely would be the April 26th. It's an extreme rainfall event. Here it would be 8 a.m. on the 26th. Dominica is somewhere here under this red dot. We are right here. And we were just covered with clouds, in deep clouds. Those clouds are deep convective clouds, the kinds that produce heavy thunderstorms and showers, which was anchored along the eastern communities on that day. This map represents rainfall accumulations during the period from 6 p.m. April 25th to 6 p.m. April 26th, and we would observe our maximum rainfall amounts in the areas of Concord, Horseback Ridge, and Castle Bruce, with Concord and Horseback Ridge recording in excess of 600 millimeters during that period. Highest rainfall intensity was about 100 millimeters in 1 hour, which is extreme. It's very extreme. Yes. Well, there are various watersheds. I wish Malika would chime in on those. There are various watersheds. So if a rainfall event falls in a particular watershed, then the rivers and tributaries within that watershed would divert that flow through the communities that it's affecting. If there's no river going from, let us say, Concord all the way to the west coast, then you won't get any downstream flow. So this was concentrated in those areas, this watershed that was affected. Okay. And so April 26th. So as a result of the drought system, nothing new to you. I'm sure you would have seen the pictures, flooding in Marigot, landslides in Marigot as well. Who wanted the day bash photo? It's right there, flooding and debris, flooding and heavy flow of the Cape War River. The Castle Bruce bridge linking to Good Hope was damaged. Flooding and untrizzle as a result of landslide, homes were lost. And heavy river and waterfall flows resulting in the bridge in Rosalie becoming impassable. So it's quite a bit of impacts in those heavily affected areas. On May 20th, we had a rockfall in Goodwill at the stadium, and accumulation of rainfall. Things move, the land moves, the land shifts. If it's not solid, it will fall. By the dry season, as we said, was very wet. Last increase until at least September thereabouts, and so we had this significant concentration of gases across the Caribbean, resulting in a reduction in visibility, as you can see, and in air quality. Saharan dust incursions has a limiting influence on our rainfall. When it's there, it limits the amount of rainfall. It also has an impact on the tropical cyclone season as well, particularly early during the season. So bushfires. The dry season is normally the period for bushfires. Based on data from the Dominica Fire and Ambulance Service, 50. What I wasn't sure was if that is below normal or above normal for that period. I am not sure, but the dry season was particularly wet. And you only saw those intense bushfires, which we are seeing now, as the weather has dried up quite significantly as a result of those concentrations of gases which are coming across right about now. So this graph here is a daily severity rating. So what it tells you is that how difficult it is for the fire service to control fires. The more fires that you have, the more difficult it is to control. So from January, we had just about a rating of 1. This increased to about 3 in February because our rainfall dropped in February. This went back down in April. There was a little spike in March, a little spike in April, and towards the end of May as well. So it will be interesting when the data is updated. When I checked last night, it wasn't updated as yet, but it should have been. Most likely probably this morning. If this would have spiked as a result of the dryness being experienced. And even the fires that were happening at the moment. So, I know I was speaking of the hazards, the impactful hazards as a result of the conditions during the dry season. The bad stuff, but the good stuff. And this is for you to answer for yourselves as well. What are the good things about the weather and the climate during the dry season, particularly in your sectors, in your areas of interest? So it's always good to think about not just the negative, but what are the positives that are coming out from the dry season conditions as well. This marks, oh no, not the end, not quite there. We're looking at forecast verification. Now, when we produce the forecast, we use models. The models use pulls in the atmosphere in our environment. Models are not 100% accurate. We rely on them, we use them for guidance, we provide input now and then, or technical input to determine what the forecast could be like. So we're just going to look to see how did our models perform for the dry season. So we're looking at the period December to February. At Canefield, our models had forecasted above normal rainfall for both Canefield and Douglas Charles. However, we would have seen that we observed a normal accumulation of rainfall at Canefield and above normal rainfall at Douglas Charles. So slightly better for Douglas Charles. When we're looking at our wet days, the number of wet days observed at Canefield was 38 and 52 at Douglas Charles. and this fell within the forecasted range of 35 to 61 at Canefield and 46 to 73 at Douglas Charles. Mostly okay in terms of the rainfall. When we come to the temperatures, what we observe is that at Canefield, our average temperature for the period, 30.4, was normal. The forecast was for warmer than usual temperatures. And we will observe that for basically our maximum temperatures, our mean temperatures, our minimum temperatures, the forecasts were for warmer than usual. However, normal temperatures were observed. So temperatures were over forecasted for the period. At Douglas Charles, similarly, observed temperatures were normal to below normal. The daytime max were more than usual, over forecasted. In terms of the mean, the models were not giving any indication of the forecast. So in that instance, we normally say if the models are not providing much information, then you prepare for the normal. And normal mean temperature was observed. Forecast for nighttime temperature were on point for below normal. What about March, April, May? Now this season is sort of like a transition season. We always pick up the spring barrier because we are moving now from the dry season and transitioning to the wet season. So we are changing seasons in the Northern Hemisphere. We are going from winter months to your spring months. So at that time the atmosphere is shifting. So the models don't really capture any changes, so to speak, in terms of what you can expect. It's not very loud in what it is providing. So when we look at the forecast for rainfall, they were providing very little information. So we would have informed that to prepare for the usual for the dry season, right? Our observations were above normal and even way above normal as a result of the April 26 event. But we also provide a flash flood potential. We also indicate there may be a high chance of either one or two flash flooding events. So this was forecasted. The only difference is we are not able to tell you most times, okay, it's going to be so bad. It's going to get as bad as it was. We are able to tell you you can prepare for one or two flash flood events, which is significant on its own. But how bad can it get? Then you have to drop down to your lower time scales, your daily time scales, your weather forecast, your weekly forecast. Okay? When we look at the wet days, our wet day observations were above range because it was a wet period. It was observed that the observed number of wet days were just slightly north or slightly higher than the upper threshold, so it was above the range. In terms of our temperatures, yet again, over forecasting warmer than usual temperatures. However, at Canefield, our maximum temperature it was warm as usual. Our nighttime temperatures were cooler than usual. At Douglas Charles, our daytime temperatures were cooler than usual. Our nighttime temperatures were usual. So overall, our temperatures were cooler than usual. So our temperature forecast has been performing. Yes. Have not been performing as well as our rainfall forecast. Thank you, Trotter. So now that we have set the stage in terms of the data and you would understand how this would have affected the sectors, we'll now go on to the outlook and see. You want to have a break now? Yes. The break is there? Oh, the break is here. So, is it going to be a working break? Yes. So, go to the back and thank you for your attention.
We will take a break right now. We can have our stomachs asking questions. So, it's been a while. So, we'll take a working break. So, while we are having our break, we will continue with the presentation.
This is the 16th annual climate forecast. We trust that you are enjoying the presentation so far. We are happy that we are able to bring you this information. We know it is very useful for everyone. And as you've heard, the models are
Okay, everybody. So while we are enjoying our snacks, let's enjoy the rest of the presentation. Dr.
In the past couple of months in the dry season. And my talk is very brief. What I'll be doing is looking at what will be driving the climate going forward, what factors. So, as we know, the wet season coincides with the Atlantic hurricane season, which runs relatively from June to November. And here in that season as well is where we have our heat season between April to October, when things get heated up and we feel a bit uncomfortable. So looking at the different factors, the drivers, the wet season is actually driven by the intertropical convergence zone when it migrates to the north from the equator, bringing rainfall with it, bringing activities with it, and this brings rain to the region, especially to Dominica. And during this period as well, we have the sea surface temperatures warming to around 27 to 30 degrees Celsius around there. So we have warm sea surface temperatures, which give energy to some of the tropical disturbances. Again, we have around this season the migration of the tropical waves off the west coast of Africa that comes over to the Caribbean region, bringing disturbances with it. And these disturbances may develop into hurricane or stronger storms. Next, we have, again, what's influencing the wet season is the North Atlantic subtropical high, or you may hear it be called the Bermuda Azores high. And around this time, what happens is that this high moves slightly up to the west, allowing those same tropical waves off the west coast of Africa to come further into the region, again bringing disturbances with it. So to allow for the pathway for more disturbances to come.
So, but how does this go?
One, sorry, can people answer all questions? Break it down. So every approximately around 2 to 7 years, you have a phenomenon called the El Nino. Yeah? And what happens is that the eastern tropical Pacific becomes warmer than it is on average. And here the warmer, I hope I said ocean, the ocean becomes warmer than it is on average. And this is represented like by the red shaded area. So the ocean becomes warm, it has a lot of energy, the warmth is released to the atmosphere, and this warmness comes to the Caribbean at higher levels, important. So what happens is that usually when we have cloud development, just bear with me for a second, when you have warm temperatures at the surface, along with moisture, it warms, it rises, it cools, it condenses from clouds to get rain. But when you have the warmness number, it prevents the development of convection. So what the El Nino does is it slightly hinders the development of disturbances, you can say. So, just going quickly to this graph. This is the forecast for the coming season, and we see a lot of red bars. I'm not going into any details, but this is saying that we are entering the season, for June, July, August, even up to November, will be the El Nino.
Wow.
Yeah? And if I move slightly back for that, what we see here is that the strength of the El Nino for this time around will be, it has a higher chance of being significantly stronger. Okay? Nevertheless, while it may hinder the development of the storms within the region, that sometimes there may be a period when you may have a strong disturbance, and all you take is one storm for destruction. So please be vigilant. Finally, ending off with this graph, this image, we see for the tropical Atlantic, very quickly you see blue, you see red. Wherever it's blue, it's warm, so cool. Wherever it's red, it's warm. And for the Northern Caribbean, the ocean temperature will be warmer, while that in the southern is being cooler. This is because of the strong winds that comes into the region that had that cooling effect in the ocean. However, going forward, it is expected that the sea surface temperatures will become warmer than usual and provide energy. The next thing I needed to make note of is that while the El Nino may hinder cloud development, it brings a lot of warmth, a lot of heat. So be mindful of that. And as was said before earlier, if you were listening, the dry Saharan area usually stifle activity, shower activity, yeah? But however, we are not at this time able to predict it on a seasonal level. So at this time, but you will hear a little bit more about this during the course of the day. And here, I will turn it over to the exciting part, another exciting part I should say, looking forward in what the season, now that we see what drives the season, what is it, the outlook for Dominica specifically. Thank you.
Okay, we now have Mrs. Annie Carey Joseph giving the presentation.
Okay, good morning everyone. So now that we've got an idea as to what happened in the last season, which was our dry season, we got to get a feel of what are the drivers for the upcoming wet and hurricane season. So I'm now going to give you what to expect for our wet and hurricane season. Okay, so we start off by looking at how wet or dry will the season be. So we're going to look at some graphics here, and basically, if you look at the key, I'm not sure if it's all right. So if you look at our color keys here, anything in brown means below normal. Anything in blue, above normal expectations. So for both of our June, July, August season to September, October, November season, the island is in brown. Okay? The different shades of brown, so the deeper the brown, it means the higher the confidence of having below normal rainfall. Okay? So we start with the west coast, our western areas. Based on our Canefield data, we're expecting to get below normal rainfall. Now, what is normal rainfall for June, July, August? So the normal rainfall for the west Canefield and along the west coast is about 474.2 millimeters to 756 millimeters. This is your normal for the west coast. And we're saying that we're expecting to get below that threshold. Okay? So for Douglas Charles again, a number range would be somewhere like 544 to 768, and we're also expecting to get below those values. When we move into the second half of the wet season, which runs from September to November, again, we are very high confidence that our rainfall will be below the usual. And again, the usual along the west coast will be somewhere about 434 millimeters to about 699, while on the east coast, we're looking at 730.4 to about 1,051 millimeters. So we're expecting our rainfall to fall below this threshold. Now, how wet? We said high chance of reduced wetness, but with occasional heavy rainfall. Yes, we're saying that our rainfall, high chance that it will be below the usual, but during that period, there are possibilities, high chances that you will get intense rainfall periods. Okay? So usually, you could probably expect about 39 to 62 wet days, and these are days when your rainfall exceeds 1 millimeter. All right, and about 3 to 6 7-day wet spells. So that is 7 consecutive days when your rainfall exceeds 1 millimeter. Okay, and when we look at very wet 7 days, right, we expect to get between 0 to 3 very wet 7-day wet spells. And at least 3 7-day dry spell possible. And the dry spell would be days when your rainfall is less than 1 millimeter. Okay, and this, we have some low confidence at the moment for it, but at least 3 7-day dry spells are possible. When we look at flash flood potential, we have extremely high probabilities for those. We're expecting about 4 to 5 excessive rainfall events, which could trigger flash flooding and other cascading events along like landslides, rock falls, and so forth. And these are days when you get about 30 millimeters or greater rainfall on a day. Okay, so at least 4 to 5 of those excessive rainfall events. And this is between June, July, and August. Now, we have, this is the season for Saharan dust. We expect to see an increase in the intrusion of in Saharan dust moving across the Caribbean region. Now, like my colleague would have said, Saharan dust tends to reduce rainfall activity, it tends to dry up the atmosphere. So on days when we have high Saharan dust concentration, expect to get drying in the conditions. And this would result in a reduced number of wet days like we would normally expect. Droughts. So at the moment, there are no drought concerns. And we're talking about agricultural drought, which goes up to the end of June. Short-term drought, which goes up to the end of August. And long-term drought, which goes up to the month of November. So currently, there are no drought concerns, and we need to continue to monitor because things could change as the months go, especially as we're expecting below normal rainfall. All right? And just to say that prior to April 26 rainfall event, we had some colors. Right, we had drought watch, there was even drought warning for Douglas Charles area. But then that 1 day rainfall changed the whole dynamics of what we could. So please monitor during the coming months because things could change. Now, how hot will the next 3 to 6 months be? All right, so for June, July, and August, this is the first map here. We're looking at daytime highs, meaning that is your high temperatures during the day, the extreme temperatures during the day there. So for Kentville, just to explain the color code, when in the red, it means that we're going to expect warmer than usual temperatures. If you see blues, it means that we're expecting cooler than usual temperature. After the color means the higher the confidence or the higher the probability. So for Kentville, for June, July, August, for daytime highs, looking to be warmer than usual. while a double showers, this means that there are equal chances that the temperature could either be below normal or above normal. So there are equal chances at the moment. And when you look at our nights, Canefield continue to show. When we move to the next season, September, October, November, for our daytime highs, both are in the highest probability for above normal, both of our stations. So what it means that generally the condition expect warmer than usual temperatures when we move into September, October, November. And for the nights, Canefield here is showing equal chances in that it can go either way, while double showers showing some warmer than usual temperatures with some medium confidence. Now, we are in the heat season. For Dominica and the Caribbean islands, the heat season runs from April to October, November for some of the other islands. The heat season peaks when we start to get August, September. Okay? So, for this season, we're expecting about 30 to 15 hot days, and that will cover the month of June, July, and August. And update every month, we update and move up to the other months. So we can keep updating you for information that you can request if you want it. Right? So on a hot day, we consider it as for Canefield and Western communities, days where your temperatures peak to near 32.9 degrees Celsius or warmer. At Douglas Shouts, this is a day when the temperature peaks to 31.5 degrees Celsius and warmer. Now, we are also in the hurricane season, which runs from June 1st to November 30th. Okay, and normally, the hurricane season tends to peak late August into September. As you can see, the darkest shade of the purple color. And also on the graph at the beginning here, we have the higher peaks in late August into September. Right, so this is what we are accustomed to get normally. This year, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, they are forecasting for higher probabilities for below normal tropical cyclone activity in the Atlantic. So we have 55% probability for being below normal, and the next higher one is 35, which is near normal. Okay? So they are forecasting for about 8 to 14 named storms, of which 3 to 6 could become hurricanes, and about 1 to 3 to become a major hurricane. And we have here the names of those. Now, fewer storms. A lot of people, they feel like they should relax because they hear this isn't going to be below normal and they feel like they should relax. But no. While we may expect below normal hurricane activity, there is also the potential for getting rapid intensification storms, right? And it only takes one system to pass through over, only one. Okay? So fewer storms does not equal to reduced levels of socioeconomic and environmental impacts. Okay? So please prepare as usual. Do not sit down and relax and say this isn't going to be quiet. Because sometimes that 1 to 3 major hurricane might just be the one that passed by us. Okay? So there are different agencies who issue hurricane forecasts during the period. And for us here, we rely again on NOAA. We also have the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology in Barbados. They also issue a hurricane forecast. And they are also forecasting for 12 named storms, 5 of which should become hurricanes, 2 to become major hurricanes, right? And they also break down the hurricane season. So they look at the first half of the season, which is from June, July, August. Then they look at the second half, which is August, September, October, and the latter part, September, October to November. So what we're saying is that for September, for the first half, right? June, July, August. Normally there is 5. That's your climatology, 5. They're forecasting for about 6 and a range of between 3 to 10. So that is between June, July, and August, right? Then we look at the peak of the season, which is August, September, and October. Usually, there is 11 they are forecasting to have about 8, with a range of about 4 to 13 for consistencies, right? And for the second half of the season, they're looking to expect about 6, with a range of about 3 to 9. So if we look on the side here with the pies, for the first half, during June to August, there is a higher probability to have above normal activity, right? From June to August. However, as we move to August to October, we see that the probability for below normal has increased. It is the high of it. So it means that during our peak of our season, we expect there's a higher chance of having below normal activity. And when we look at the last part, which is September to November, we have 57% probability, which is the highest of being below normal, having below normal activity. Okay? Now, the Colorado State University, they have this thing where they forecast systems passing within 50 miles of different countries, different islands, different locations. So for Dominica, so we have 2 sections. These here are the averages over the years, and this is what they're expecting for 2026. So the probability of nail storms impacting or passing within 50 miles of our location is about 24%. For the probability for hurricane impacts is about 10%. And the probability for major hurricane impacts is 5%. Okay? Now, let's just take a look at our season. So for this year, from June to November of hurricane season, we're expecting a quieter but erratic Atlantic hurricane season, meaning that it's unpredictable. You could have rapid intensification, right? Then we also have, for Dominica, also and some of the other Caribbean islands, a delay to the start of the wet season for a lot of the islands. But for Dominica, I know we've been wet. Our wet season, our dry season was not dry, right? So, but if we look at the islands to the south of us, just south of us, they are all dry. Some are in drought, some are around in water, right? And we are sitting at the middle there, at the top there, looking all blue and wet and nice. A lot of people ask me, what is going on in Dominica? You know, everybody dry, but we like wet. Right?
So that's why we have to appreciate you coming for us.
Take it.
So we so as we come out of the dry season, we're going to the wet season. We are expecting to have below or less than the usual rainfall that we are accustomed to during our wet season, with El Nino, which significantly impacts the Caribbean region, meaning that it tends to reduce rainfall activity, even if a lot of times it results in intense rainfall activity, intense hurricane development, rapid intensification, but generally it results in drier conditions across the region. So if we go through our wet season and our rain values are below normal, when we come out of our wet season and we are entering our dry season next year, and we are entering it dry, it means that our impacts will be greater when we move into our next dry season next year. So what happens during this wet season would significantly impact going forward our next dry season, which starts from December and ends in May. Okay? And then we look at intense peak of the heat season, like 2023 and 2024, if you remember those years. Okay? Now we're going to look at sargassum. Dominica is cut up and placed into the north parts of this chart, and this is the graph for the north. So this was done in May. I could not get an updated one because I turned up to this morning. So from June, we see various spikes in the sargassum levels all the way into August, right? So we're expecting to get severe influxes of sargassum. Okay, and a lot of times we tend to see the highest impacts along the coral reefs. And however, when we get to August, towards the end of August, we tend to see some colors coming in here, right? So it means that we are in some watch. So we need to start to pay attention to the sea surface temperatures and our coral bleaching when we get into August, as the alert levels will be increasing thereafter. Okay, so outside of seasonal, where we look at the months, the Met Office also provides a sub-seasonal forecast. And this looks at for rainfall, exceedance, and temperature forecast for 2 weeks. So we look at 1 week and then another week separately. So this was done on Monday, and it will cover the week from June 1st to June 7th. And if we look for the 25 millimeters exceedance probability, everything is white. Right, so it means that there is a very low chance that we will have rainfall accumulation exceeding 25 millimeters for this week. Right? And for next week as well, which is from June 8th to the 14th, the chances of having rainfall exceeding 25 millimeters is very, very low. Which means that you have fewer or very low chance of significant rainfall, which will disrupt your outdoor activities. Temperatures are expected to continue being cooler than usual, which would reduce the need for cooling assistance. Although some people, they always use their fan no matter what the season. But for mosquito, right? The fan is used for mosquito and not for cooling. So this forecast is based on our websites. Every week, every Monday, a new one is issued, and then look at the next week and the next week. So if you want to get this, so that's some key messages here. Just a reminder. High chance of reduced wetness, but with occasional heavy rainfall. For June, July, August, we're expecting below normal rainfall. And for September, October, November, also below normal rainfall. There is a decrease in the frequency of wet days and 7-day wet spells as compared to the usual. Flash flood potential remains extremely high. About 4 to 5 excessive rainfall events, which could trigger flash flooding and cascading hazards, are possible. At least 3 7-day dry spells are possible. There are no drought concerns at the time, however, you need to monitor and keep updated. The 2026 Atlantic hurricane season has a higher probability for below normal hurricane season activity. However, there remains a potential for very intense storm. El Nino often makes the atmosphere less conducive for storm development. So just a reminder, storms are a way for the ocean to release its energy, so we need them, okay? And the earth has to balance its heats. So when you get storms, when you get storms, it removes a lot of that heat from certain areas, like the equator areas, and transports it up to the poles when it's cooler. So that is the Earth's way of balancing its budget. So we need the storm, but we just don't need it to pass on the islands, right?
You say this is accessible on your website.
The sub-seasonal forecast.
The key message is what you have. You say all this is on your website.
No.
Oh, okay.
But you will get the hurricane season forecast on our website. It's there.
So put your key message.
The key message is you should put that on your website.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
And then just a little adjustment, because if, for example, you have JJA, and when I came there, before you started, I was wondering what was JJA. I only realized it was June, July, August. So then, here it is. I only get it to know. So if you put it that everybody, so put June, July, you can put your JJJ bracket, but put it for everybody.
No problem. All right, and also increased chance of rapid intensification around the northern Caribbean due to the warmer waters. As we saw on the sea surface temperature map, we had higher So we do have historical data from two of the airports, right? The two airports. And we have data dating back to 1982 for Cape Town and later for Dominica.
1981. 81 and 83. That's what she said. That's what she said. And based on the data, yes. It was before he and it is 30 something.
So we have those that we use to extract episodes of
83 pieces she had.
Change from 83 to now, which is an intensity.
Frequency and intensity. This trend will let us know whether it's climate change or not.
There's a lot of climate change. Let me tell you, climate variability. Yes? While you might look at somewhere maybe in the East Europe, so they might see a rising trend and stuff. For us here, 1 year there, 1 year down, 1 year up, and generally it is not really shouting climate change. We see a lot of climate variability. So 1 year you might get an intense period, another year might be drier.
Yeah.
It is ranking your extremes. Because, like I said, for Kentfield, this was like the 8th wettest dry season. So it was 7 years prior to this, where you had rainfall during the dry season that was higher than this year's rainfall. And half of this was, as I said, in the 2000s, and then you had years from 1980 something and 90 something years. We add that is even more variable. So even within like the highest 10, you have a mix of years, 1980s, 1990s, 2000s. So you can't clearly say, okay, in the past 10, 15 years, it has all been in the 2000s. So there is no clear indication indicating that, okay, yes, this is quote unquote climate change. Granted, the data set cannot give you climate change information. It's too short. We talk about climate change, we're looking at decades of that. You only have one 30-year period talking about, you know, you need
I think the question probably means everything is downfall now compared to before. That's what the question is.
It's complementary, but still in 30 years you can show trends.
Yes,
that would be interesting.
Yes.
The question is about intensity, but a complementary question would be about the frequency and those rainfall extremes more frequent since 30 years. If it was collected, and I find that with regard to carbon change, when you say, when Madame your colleague is saying that it's about variability, the climate change is about variability. It is about variability. It's also about distribution.
To make me just quickly, because there's a bit of confusion between change and variability. We hate climate, but we hate change and we hate variability. I'll try to simplify it as much. So when we have a climate change projections, we think about it as what is going to happen in the next 50 years, 100 years, maybe outside of my time and yours, right? So climate change, you may see your trend or your line just keep going. Everything about temperature. I'm trying to see how simple I can say. Now, you may see the line just going up. But when we have variability, right? So you hear at this climate forum, and we here to learn what is going to happen for the wet season climate. The Caribbean has for our climate, it is specified with 2 seasons, dry and wet. This is our climate over all the years. This is what you expect. During the wet season, you have rain. During the dry season, you have less rain. Now, within that season, the dry and the wet, things may change slightly. It may vary. You may have more rain than usual. You may have less than usual. It is varying within the season. So that's your climate variability we're looking at now. We're not looking at 50, 100 years. That's change. Variability within our climate now.
Yes.
I hope that.
Yes, but the question is, over the years, we have this season. As you say, we have this thing, wet and dry season, and within those seasons there are variability, but that variability is within a range.
Okay.
Over the years, are we seeing that range? What is the trend of that range?
Is it more when it's more
or less predictable?
I hope I'm able to answer your question. But what we do, right? So you asked a very important question. How far back the date was? And say 1981, 1983. Now, within this length of period, we use a period, a base period, a climatological period to define our climate around 30 years or so, where we can compare the rest with this particular period. What do I mean? Say, for instance, from 1991 to 2020, because we check the period each time, right? And we compare it to what we in this period. So I'm almost finished. So if you think about the temperature, right? If we let the period, the climatological period, we compare everything to between 1982. It was a 30-year period because we shipped. If you compare it to that period, the temperature always be warmer than usual to this. So the World Meteorological Organization, we shift the base period, the climatological period each time, so that you can get a proper representation, a comparison to your climate to know what it is like. So at the moment, you have your climatological base period where compare your temperatures and your rainfall to that to know how intense it is for the period for the past. Sorry. Oh, I don't. I'm trying to run.
Temperature.
Even we have not seen any significant change in our rainfall amounts. So what we have seen is our nighttime temperatures becoming warmer. That is because we trends that
I've seen that in terms of regional international weather forecast, we have also UV rays and but also in the UV measurements. So you see UV measurements. I'm thinking a lot of us work outdoors in terms of agriculture, construction, etc. Whatever. So that means that at some point within our the understanding of the weather and forecast and the fact that we have met information from the layman, from our science, etc. Is there a person where you want that can change up the language, so to speak? I know you can't go to the layman's language, but no matter you need to stand there, and then you can have an explanation. Because remember, the information and first tell us that there's no communication has been successful. Something just to make your life easier, all life easier. Is that something that can be considered?
Yes, we consider that for sure. We're talking about preparing one these are the two stations that we started with because majority was really focused on aviation before. But now we have a number of other work stations around here measuring different parameters. So far as instrument goes in terms of the video as a highlight.
We have over 50. We need a considerable amount of data, right? Yes, because remember one of the slides, we have to get through the maximum pressure and we saw was that solves for it. So these stations should get data, but we don't have that plenty of data
able to get information like trial and GIS. It is every day every night to run the information on the web, but it's focused on these people in the venue or the transit or the radio.
But that's why we did it. That's why we want to easier.
So that's why I'm giving my people going forward. As I said, I pick up the elderly. So private please consider this by utilizing the GIS and disseminating that information.
But here's a different system. We usually give information on the radio station and we do different languages backwards.
Yes, but some of these areas, you might be able to say, we're not getting DBS on that channel, but if it's on that specific TV channel, they have.
And they all know that it's right.
Chinese language, because we have Chinese, we have Spanish, yes. We have the applications. Use the platform. Disseminate information. And platform.
Just listening, my focus is on the people. And I want just to be very careful because you see, even for us when we hear acquiring the system, all my God, they come together God. So I want people only even before you even say that it's acquiring the system, however, you see that however, and explain to the people however, because there are other factors that may trigger identification, you know. That warm ocean temperatures. It's something 28, 29, 30 something. I'm not mentioning all this like and so I want to for people I am telling you are wrong people. Once it's required access, bro, I tell you, man, you understand, man, go on, get checked out. But if you can come. I can say for sure that when the focus was issued, that when we said that the prediction is 4 billion on the season, Kali can tell you that we said that it only takes one storm to make it a value for us.
So the seasonal prediction is just for the number of storms expected to come, but it doesn't tell you where the storms are going. Alright? So it's one.
But that's how it's said.
But that's how it was said.
That's how it's always said. That's how it's always said. That's how it's always said. But always be prepared. What is then we're talking about? Community, man. Community, what is the word, man?
Always make that point. Preparation is key.
But of course.
Mitigation measures.
That is when we have systems, we know how to do our simulcast. When we do our radio programs, we are joined by TNO, we are joined by acoustic, and all the other it's not part of entity. But we join all the others to ensure that we touch everywhere, which is essential.
Just highlight it because I know
when yes,
And China's more should they call it predictions? Correct. Because there are people who
Yeah, I was
Okay, so again, I'm representing the Minister of Health. I'm primary health services, and in all the speeches that were done during the welcome ceremony, there was talk about the importance of health, and I can appreciate the fact that you're on the media, on the radio, etc. But for us in primary health care, our foundation is education and prevention. What we see working well is persons coming into our clinics and doing teaching sessions. Because no matter how many times you say it on the radio, I may still have questions. And I cannot ask you a question because I cannot get through with a phone call or whatever. So the invitation is there for the mental health and officers to hit the ground, not just the airwaves, but hit the ground and come into the health center. And the exact same thing you're saying on the radio. If people have questions, because this is the questions that are coming out of us, and we're supposed to be the educated ones. So you can imagine that they might have the simplest question that if you pay attention to your alerts, as opposed to saying, I don't understand, so yes, I hear it, but I'm not understanding them, so I'm not going to do what you say. Okay. So the invitation is there.
Yes, thank you.
So let us know what we come.
And we're going to interrupt. Because
I Doc has made that invitation, but so often, even with the programs, we also engage in the issue of health. That is why, again, it was said that all stakeholders need to come together. I can tell you, just recently I've been trying to get some information with these people. Call the X, Y, and Z program to talk to the people. I was sent to my house, then I was sent to Scottsdale. Who you call? I'm calling you. No, don't get I have been trying to get forest.
You want to for everything.
So everybody here.
Listen, you don't have a mic.
Everybody here.
I'm making my straight.
Whenever you need the med office to come to a presentation and do some public education for you, you are welcome to write to the Met Office or call us, and then we will make ourselves available to come to you. Alright? That has always been my thing, to provide assistance to any stakeholder, any school, any village council or whatever, any church, to come and do some presentation if it needs you. Alright, so all you have to do is contact the Met Office and let us know that you need us to come and do a presentation for you. Alright? So you can go to our website, www.weather.gov.in. Alright? So I hope everybody here is aware of that website. So you can go there, you can see our number, our information, and you contact us.
My concern is that we are forecasting for temperature but can wind forecasting be part of this whole forecasting system? And the second question is that you spoke about 3 to 5 days of heavy rainfall. Is that like part of a hurricane storm attacking, or it's separate from those hurricane systems? And my third thing was, this lady spoke about the Bermuda rise.
Azores high.
Azores,
the high pressure system, yes.
The high pressure, but I didn't quite understand how this Bermuda thing attracting storms and hurricanes in that direction. I wasn't too clear, so I just wanted a little clarification.
Each pressure probably doesn't get a little more complicated by saying that, but it just means a system of winds along which the hurricanes and cyclones will be carried along to our area. So some people say when they get Barbados, they turn to our area. That is the system of winds you're talking about.
In Bermuda,
yes. That's what we call the high pressure.
Because the front flows like this, so the system of Africa will move with the flow.
So when anytime you hear high pressure, think about
the doctor.
Air.
When you hear high pressure, you think about the doctor.
Pressure alone for doctor, that's alone.
When your pressure high, you can't. Let me bring it up. When your pressure high, you can't do anything. You have to lie down in the bed.
Yeah.
Right? When you have low pressure, your pressure not low. You could get up, you could run around, do what you want to do. So when there's a low pressure, the storm fails, you get plenty rain, you get disturbance, you get hurricane. Low pressure.
Low pressure.
Activity, you're vicious, you're all over. Yeah. When your pressure low and good. When your pressure high, you can't do anything. Right? Yeah. So whenever there's a high pressure, there's nothing that can develop. But low pressure, high pressure, the winds circulate differently. And with the high pressure, because of how it circulates, it allows, remember, Africa is to the east, the Caribbean is to the west. And with the high pressure that it makes it right. The tropical waves from Africa, from the east, gets to come into the west, into the Caribbean.
If they're low pressure.
Sorry?
At that time it's low pressure, which is very active.
Because what happens, just for you to understand a bit more, so during the dry season, that high pressure comes down and it kind of blocks. Right? When it goes up, it allows space. Just to come low pressure, it to kind of stabilize. I hope that was simple.
No, it kind of confused me. I had gotten it. So, you always say in Africa the pressure is high.
All you have to do is listen to your weather station.
I was trying to understand it.
Atlantic Ocean.
Where can they come from?
Africa, okay.
So there's somehow high pressure. When
high pressure usually means something strong winds. And high pressure doesn't mean not getting rain. Because there can be what's called convergence. Like, you know, if you have
high pressure.
Okay, like, say for instance, there's a stream of water going down, and you put your hand behind it, you stand faster than the stream of water, so you find the water will spill down in front of your hand, right?
Yes.
So this is what the high pressure is when you have strong winds happen, does. And it creates a lot of rainfall.
You have the right idea.
So even the high pressure.
We can
So
understand.
that's how we can predict.
It's that we understand. We cannot oppose it, so we can put it with the right. No, I don't know yes.
Excuse me, everybody. Yes. We don't have lights, we cannot do slides, but we can do one thing. And hopefully by the time we're done to lunch with each other, we can have a lunch. Right? So we're gonna look at the health climatic bulletin. And we're gonna have our friend from the environmental health come and do a presentation. You want to talk? Talk.
No slides. No slides.
That's what they think. Yeah, that was so we just keep on so we just get the next or we just think our next or we just think of every time we start recording we just keep on so
Okay, let's listen, please, our voice.
People have to afterwards, so you can bring it up to
The Ministry of Health, Wellness and Social Services, in collaboration with the Dominica Meteorological Service, is pleased to launch the June to August 2026 edition of the Health Climatic Bulletin. This bulletin provides an integrated assessment of recent climate conditions, seasonal climatic forecasts, and the potential impact on health, on public health, helping communities, decision makers, and stakeholders prepare for climate-related health. The bulletin highlights the expected climate conditions for the upcoming season, including the likelihood of warmer temperatures, period of heavy rainfall, flooding, and Sahara dust intrusion, all of which may influence health outcome across the country. It also outlines key health concerns such as respiratory illness, vector-borne diseases, gastroenterology, illness, non-communicable diseases, leptospirosis, and mental health challenges that may be exacerbated by climate conditions. By putting together climate and health information in one resource, the Health Climatic Bulletin strengthens early warning system and supports informed decision making at the community and national level. The ministry encourages all residents to review the bulletin, follow the recommended preventive measures, and stay informed for the season to protect their health and welfare. This initiative reflects Dominica's continued commitment to build climate resilience and safeguard public health through science-based information and intersectorial collaboration. We also thank CIMH and the Queen's Mark for assisting and ensuring that this bulletin becomes a reality. So you can view the bulletin on the Met website, on the Ministry of Health table page, and
Don't you, Rona? No question behind
everybody okay?
No, it's hot.
Last year for the same season, I was just talking about. Do you have any records of reported cases of some of those incidents or occurrences related to health and as a result of the impact of the season?
What? You mean leptospirosis or dengue fever or anything like
Right,
that?
yeah, related to things like this.
Well, they have some.
Last year that was.
Last year?
Last
Well,
year.
honestly, I cannot fully answer you.
Oh.
Just the alternates, the climate focal points. She wasn't feeling well this morning.
Okay.
So the answer is yes. The answer is yes. We had dengue outbreak and we had a major gastrointestinal outbreak, and that happened during our wet season. So we had an extensive gastrointestinal outbreak, and we have an ongoing dengue, not an outbreak, but we do have a dengue problem, if you want to call it that, because, pardon? Well, if we don't get rid of those drums and those tires and those things properly, we will, and clean our drains, then that's how it'll be, and then people will have to be talking about dengue like how other countries talking about malaria. And the strain of dengue that we have now is a lot worse because we have a lot more hospitalization as a result of dengue. The symptomatology for every person is becoming increasingly worse. So people are getting sicker because of dengue. Doesn't matter brick bone, you take your paracetamol, fluids, and you rest. Now people are being admitted with a lot of abdominal pain. Some people experience bleeding, and we have platelet counts dropping really low. So what should last about 5 days is now going on for 10 days to 2 weeks. Leptospirosis is not, has nothing to do with climate, it has all to do with IC. Rats. Cleanliness. Garbage stored, garbage accumulated. Because the area because that's what we decide to clean. Because all the cardboard boxes we had at the back of our house, they get wet, so that is when we decide to throw them away. So the rats get flooded out, so they go to dry land, put it inside your house. It's not like no one ever there, you know. But we are creating the environment for them to thrive. We're giving them apartments and home, resilient homes. So not only is the government giving resilient homes, we're giving them resilient homes as well. Now we're not treating our environment. So when you have an accumulation of things and you're not willing to throw away and burn, then they have somewhere to live. And you cannot get to it because of the extent of garbage you have in there. You cannot even see the back wall because you have so much stuff in there. So if you can see a rat, you can't see them.
Well, that's
There are penalties in our environmental health laws. They have no teeth. They have a lot of words, but no teeth. Yeah, so our environmental health officers can come and they can issue you a warning, and they can come back and issue you another warning, and then another warning, but nobody can fine you. Wow.
Question. You make sure to clarify not an outbreak, but a problem. What's the difference?
An outbreak has thresholds. So when you reach a certain threshold, like she was showing us in her graph, the gray area, so it once it arrives. So gastroenteritis was an outbreak because we were above our threshold for at least 4 months. Yes. And then it went away. Dengue just they're riding along steady. It just they're riding along and it's not going down. So there are times when it goes up and it'll come back. It'll never go below, it just rides along the threshold.
Masha, to the Met Office, I commend the health climatic bulletin here. Was good and well. I'm glad you could present it here. But you only see the sectorial bulletin that included health, agriculture, tourism, etc. Why didn't you present that today?
Okay, sure.
Oh.
It's not we used to, it's still
good.
Right? So this is a new initiative as part of the CLIMSA program. So like I said, CLIMSA is focused on health in Dominica. Hence we have the health climatic bulletin. Remember what we have the agro-climatic bulletin?
Yeah, no, you don't need to go further.
I mean, as
CLIMSA is a health.
like divorce,
And sign. So they just cannot allow health to shine for the point to yes, I said him so. Not the
You see how this bulletin? Health came to our office, we sat down and they had
but we always did that in the past. So you get a new woman. Let's say you get a new woman on us. You used to do that with us. But you used to do that with us. Yeah. You used to do that with us. You're trying to follow up, man.
The drive has to come from the sector, right? The health push because it gets the collaboration, but the drive and the motivation has to come from the health sector. It came from the health sector. So the agro, the drive has to come from the sector. You want the climate.
But we always give that drive. We wouldn't say that in public.
So
you know, yes, we always we have projects going on together in collaboration. Yeah, but you have a team.
When we did the agro-climatic bulletin, we had to sit down and we put the bulletin together. No.
That's what give you petrol.
No. Everybody come, agriculture sit down, they type this, type, we fix together. That is what we want.
Collaboration.
This is what you need to offer.
All right.
Really?
But you have one information. That's what we do. That's what we do.
And the next issue should come up
So
with
all
the
next
next
week
one.
and everything.
Okay, I said all different sectors and not just health.
All right.
Well, health take your ball.
We talk about the help you the stations all over the island that you can collect things on now. And FAU, we just give you how much stations and all that.
Hey, Papa.
I'm asking you, just to recap, the Agromet Bulletin, as we knew it, will be printed out.
That's what she's talking about.
Agromet Bulletin, there's no Agromet Bulletin being done at the moment.
They have.
We have a climatic bulletin. We have yes. We have a climatic bulletin that covers all the sectors. If it was something specific to agriculture like the health bulletin, then we have to collaborate.
We collaborate.
To renew the ball.
No, it's not just a thing by word of mouth. So we collaborate with
Everybody's so accustomed.
We'll talk about that outside.
Everybody's so accustomed to this step time. Now that this step is not happening, they will know how long the people
Any questions about the bulletin?
No, I tried.
So this bulletin, you can
The print too small.
No, they print that you can give all the tickets you on the side. It's all
Let's see what put it
And
on
put
everything
to the website also you will see it on our social media.
It's an online
Following us WhatsApp
the eyes.
But Annie, you find the bulletin simple for the elderly to understand.
It's highly expected to tailor to the health right? We have social media platforms. There are people who are not helping people as they can understand information is key.
It's very simple. The wording is very simple.
So don't take all the credit. And
the Lord said, let there be light. When you close, I just said, go to the choir. That's how I left the close for him. So when you put that for people,
Then the guy come and put them food. Then it was eating us.
just come and
You two like Ferguson. You like Ferguson.
So, which king? Run that lower box, please.
Yeah, Dr. Once more, just to remind you, our dear viewers, we are live at the Climate Seminar. This is done yearly through a collaboration of the Dominica Meteorological Service, the Office of Disaster Preparedness, and CLIMSA, present at the various sectors of the Dominican society. We have fire, as you can see, we have agriculture, we have the police, we have education, we have health, we have various community organizations, we have forestry, quite a few sectors of society represented here. And as always, very interesting discussion, very profitable discussions surrounded around climate and the factors that affect climate.
You have Jackie Euro.
So we are going to delve into Saharan dust and its impacts on Dominica as a whole and on various sectors of the Dominican society. And the conversation always continues, and I think that's what the partners like to see, that the participants are really discussing and divulging the information.
So one truck says, don't go in the same that is the project is for help.
Hello. Okay, everybody. We are going to start our presentation with electricity. Okay, so now we have Mrs. Dominica Honorary who is the presentation on the Saharan Dust Advisory Bulletin or / bulletin. Okay, as we know that we have been impacted by Saharan dust, so it is very important that we get the warning for that particular event because it can cause a lot of harm, or it can have a lot of impact on us. Okay?
Asher, that's a bulletin for the Sahara dust.
Advisory.
Okay, I mean, good morning again. Afternoon already. We had quite a few questions on the Saharan dust. We had presentations on it. And during the dry season beginning of December last year, for those who were there, you have remembered that we had Dr. Andrea Seeley from the CIMH. She did an entire presentation on Saharan dust, its origin, and its movement across the Atlantic Ocean region. And she's part of the regional team, assisted with the World Regional Organization, who are looking at policies and other things for Saharan dust. So out of that, we had follow-up meetings, and including the Ministry of Health, collaborative effort as well, working to develop a Saharan dust alert system, advisory system. So we are just going to look at a few slides. It's not very long, about 6 slides, to show you what that looks like, what they have been able to come up with to assist in that regard. So the alert looks at dust concentration. It does come across. It comes at different concentration. It all depends on how much dust is in the Sahara. Let's say how much being carried across. It all depends on how much we have fallen off over the Atlantic before it gets to us. In particular, we look at when it comes to health concerns. We look at PM 2.5, PM10. PM refers to particulate matter. And that refers to the size of the dust particles coming across. So the smallest that is looked at is the PM 2.5, that's micrometers. And the PM 2.5 micrometer in terms of size has impactful or has serious impacts in terms of its impact on respiratory ailments and those who are sensitive to pollutants. There's also PM10, which is slightly bigger, but anytime you get to PM10 or less, it has impactful dust sizes from the cross. And so the alert system or the advisory has been developed using particular concentration of those particulate matter values. So if okay, so in any situation where we are looking at concentrations PM 2.5 of 5 to 10 microns, this is considered good air quality. So we're looking at our air quality. This is the what they call it, dial. Yeah. It's a dial, it's a meter, which would reflect the air quality as it relates to the particulate matter. So you have a blue for good, which goes from 0 to 20 microns, fair 20 to 40, moderate 40 to 50, poor 50 to 100, 100 to 150 very poor, and hazardous 150 to 300. And then you have the color scheme associated with those categories from blue, green, yellow, orange, red, and purple, which is your hazardous. So you have here, as it tells you the current conditions, it states it up clearly for you. If it's good, it also provides you the concentrations of the different particulate size matters of interest, which is your PM 2.5 and 10. So in this case, good, you have PM 2.5 to 1.5 microns, PM 10, 10, so it falls within this 0 to 20 in your good area, good air quality. It also provides you a description, so the quality is satisfactory, and therefore your air quality poses little or no risk. We also get some additional information on the side to serve as guidance in terms of your PM 2.5, which is your fine particles, and what can cause PM 10, some information, to clarify things. So we can go on to the next. So it is going to go through the various color schemes at each level of the dial. So we're going from good now to fair, and it's a similar setup. Your fair, your description, your air quality is still acceptable. You're still being advised to enjoy regular outdoor activities. However, unusually sensitive persons should take precaution. They may be affected because at this time you're experiencing PM 2.5 that is 30 microns. Next, yellow, we're looking at moderate. This is between 40 to 50. So at this time, the PM 2.5 about 30, PM 10, 45. Sunday would have fallen in this particular category. We had a PM 2.5 exceeding 30 microns on Sunday. In that regard, you have the qualities of healthy or sensitive groups. So consider reducing intense outdoor activities if you experience symptoms. So then 4 PM 2.5, 55. You're in the oranges, your quality is unhealthy. At this time, for everyone, you are asked to consider limiting your outdoor activities. And we are asking you to consider serious consideration. So, not at this time, this is for this alert. Right now, the air quality has improved when compared to over the weekend.
But this morning, it had
Yeah, the head is still ignorant, so the air quality has improved as opposed to.
But this morning, it had an alert on the radio.
We inform you that there's harmful days around, and we're asking people to be on the alert and take precautions. We always keep that advice in there once we have this in our forecast. This would happen more in your action. What do you do then? What group do you consider yourself to be? Are you sensitive to pollutants? Are you sensitive? Are you very sensitive? And therefore, this will guide you as to what actions that you can take. How much do you have to prepare if you're going out? What can you do? What are you willing to do in those conditions? If we're in the red, you have very high concentration, very poor. The Godzilla event of what year was this? What year was the Godzilla event? During COVID.
So it's 2017, 2018.
Because, yeah, there was this Godzilla event would have been in the very poor category. Very unhealthy for everyone. All the activities should be avoided unless absolutely necessary.
What is the Godzilla event? Can you explain a little?
It was back during COVID time. Maybe 2020, 2021. We had this severe dust event. You remember? Were you in Dominica? This time? Okay. But there was this serious dust event at that time. Concentration were in the region of 150, between 150 and 300 microns. So they called it the Godzilla event. 2020? Okay, so the last is your purple hazardous concentrations, and you're between 150 and 300. Your quality is dangerously high levels, everyone advised to stay indoors. So ideally, this will be placed on a website, the Ministry of Health website, and to help with messaging, similar to what we use, the impact-based forecasting that we use on a daily basis. It is for rainfall, sea conditions, winds, and so on. We now have similar products for Saharan dust to guide the messaging. Okay, so you can call for this when we post it. Sure.
So if there's a volcanic eruption and there's ash fall, is that the same type of information or the same what do you call that?
In terms of the PM, I think we'll be able to use the PM concentration, yes, because if you have volcanic, you can expect PM 2.5 to be a high concentration. But it doesn't say exactly, okay, because the only question that came up, even when we were reaching the Ministry of Health, is it going to get a list for all pollutants? Right. But it's happening in Saharan dust.
Okay.
No. Yes. Because CIH actually has a leader for Saharan dust. Also,
what the meter can do for?
Yes, if there's a volcanic event and we are experiencing PM at those, yeah. Okay. I don't see why not.
Is it?
Go ahead.
Yeah. This is new. Yeah, what is now? Yeah, this is a first draft. If you like the look, is there any feedback on this? I like this introduction. Yeah.
I find you on the drive, it's not too complicated as to word it. The color scheme, all that is nice. My only issue was, you see the image of Dominica? The mountain, I should say.
Yes.
It should become.
It's too bright.
No,
it's not too bright.
It's on the change the color. That is what I'm visibility. Yeah, the visibility change the visibility.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
Very good.
It's too bright.
I like this. Yeah, that's very good.
But this one,
I like those. Yes.
I was gonna say that. Let me change it.
The advice is I find it simple. Remain indoors. Are there any other advice you can give?
That would have to be collaboration.
Wear your mask or water with your. I don't know about the
So ideally, we at the Met Office, we would forecast. We issue this, and then the Ministry of Health takes it away. And
they're supposed to give the advisories based on the different levels.
As well, yes. So whatever they see that can fit within the categories that they can issue to the public then.
Yeah. So I have a question for you though. How do you see this fits in with agriculture?
Definitely.
Can an issue like, let's say, if the policy or when the policy is back up, can something be tailored using that for the agricultural sector?
Definitely, I believe so. I think we'll have to work with CINH to look at it. I mean, the impact of it just on farmers.
Yeah.
So really,
I mean, now we're talking about the plants and animals.
Yeah. There's impacts like excessive dust on leaves, etc. on the earth, on the animals. So it's something we can collaborate with CIMH to build on for the agro-vet food.
So ideally, my office haven't got all the answers for sectors. So this is the basic information that we provide, and then the sectors, you expound on it. What can you tell your people then, as a result of the information that we presented, or we issue?
That's where
Thank you for joining.
Similar to humans, it affects your breathing, your stress.
But they get all respiratory symptoms.
It will reduce the productivity of the animal.
if you try to approach one place and it's going to take a constant time,
you could add assistance with the doctor, as a but it definitely will affect the productivity.
Thank you for sticking with us at this time. We will take a break from Dominica's 6th National Climate Outlook Seminar. Thank you.
And the extension of
If you